Well, it's that time of the year again. We're in North Sail's loft in Sydney, and we've got Paul Westlake and Mark Bradford, Flipper and Squark, and we've got a couple of big pieces of news today, and we're going to run through a few of what's going on this Christmas time as far as sailing is concerned. So guys, welcome back to the World on Water.
Thanks for having us.
And first off, Mark, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
You'd like to tell us what's happened?
Yeah, well, so Coco aged out on us. And we sent him off to the glue factory, and I came in from Queensland. I've been with the company for 20 odd years, so I filled in his shoes, and basically I just stepped into a well-oiled machine, and I've taken over his job.
Exactly, and what do you do as far as your sailing is concerned? You're still with the blackjack team?
Yeah, all sailing, steak and veg for me, so still Etchells are close to my heart, and I dedicated a little bit of time to that. I probably should dedicate more to it. You'll see that in the
results. Much time as Coco did, or what?
Oh, yeah, over the years probably, but right now, I should do more for sure. But Etchells are a part of my life, and also blackjack and the Sydney to Hobart.
And what about you, Flipper? What are you doing as far as the international side is concerned?
Yeah, well, it's been a busy year, Jeff. Obviously, I decided to jump back on the fastest flight out of the Caribbean when I was there with SaIlmakers with the J class, after we'd done the first Super Series event in Cape Town with the TP52s. A bunch of us all went to the Caribbean to pick up there, and then obviously with COVID, there was a mass rush to the airport and we all bailed out, and I've been landlocked, so to speak, since the end of March, but it's been busy times for the company globally. We've had to do a bunch of bit of restructuring, a bit of looking at ourselves, looking at what we thought the size of the market would be and our revenue base for this year going into next year. We kind of run the business off a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan. So there's been a lot of late nights and a lot of video conferencing. Pretty good with looking good at 3 in the morning. Yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but I can't say I missed the flying. But so far we've managed to get through this year well. We feel very good about how we're finishing the year up as a company, and I think that the industry's looking pretty good for a bit of a reboot in 2021.
You mentioned the TPs. What's the story for 21 for the TPs?
Yeah, well, the Super Series did a nice job at trying to kind of keeping it alive as each of the critical dates and cut-offs. Fantastic commitment from the owners. Each of the owners involved with the circuit really tried to push the whole way through. Reality is it just wasn't realistic. But the full season set up for next year, we start off in Saint-Tropez beginning of May. And already I just got a note overnight, there's a friendly training session set up in Valencia, like the 2nd to 3rd week of April. Gives everybody time to get together, test stuff out over kind of an 8-day period, and then the boats head up to Saint-Tropez and off we go. So TP52 and RC44, which are two of the top, let's call it mono-hull displacement circuits, are ready to go next year.
Oh, that's good. Well, I suppose with being in the pandemic area this year, that you've had time to think about what you're going to do as far as next year and plan new projects. Have you got anything in the offering as far as new projects are concerned?
Yeah, well, I think at that very high end, the likes of the TP52 and the RC44, we've done a lot of development over the winter coming into the spring for this year, and through the course of the summer, even though we didn't have the racing going on in Europe, we still had the ability to test a bunch of stuff. Quite a few boats still sailed, and then even just a few weeks ago, like Brunonasek, the team that I'm involved with, we're out in the water in Valencia and just having a look at a couple of ideas we have for next season. I know other teams have been doing the same, so I think what's happening with 2021 is it's just going to be a logical extension of where everybody was come spring of 2020, because there's a bunch of qualification of ideas that still has to be done on the water. There's only so much we can model.
Mate, before we get on to the big news of the day as far as the Vendee is concerned, the America's Cup, Squark, it's been quite interesting what's happened in the last couple of weeks locally as far as the big boats are concerned. You've had your moments, and how are you looking for the Hobart race?
Oh, you look, for sure. You know, our expectations of our team are very similar to the expectations that others have of our team, and that is we run a high-end project with, we don't want for anything, and we have great sailors, and we put a lot of thought and resources into what we're doing. So, you know, I'm sure some people have been enjoying our results lately. I can tell you we haven't been. But the great thing about it is the boats are so different. When you lose in your weakness or your weakest area, you learn a lot. And you know, if anyone thinks we're resting on our laurels, they'll be surprised, because we've resized a bunch of our sails, we've changed our configuration reaching, and we'll start again in a couple of days and try and validate that before the race.
And you've got all your crew ready for the race? Everybody's here?
I've had my crew locked in for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, our team's normally sort of a bunch of internationals. We have 7 or 8 internationals come, you know, Brad Butterworth and Jocker and Simon Daubney. But, you know, with this COVID thing, we knew that wasn't going to happen, so I recruited early. But lucky for me, I mean, our brand and our boat is pretty well known, so if I ring anyone, they say yes straight away. So we've got some great sailors and a really good opportunity.
Well, mate, it's been interesting watching. Yeah, of course, there's been flat water sailing, hasn't it, really, for those 2 races that you had against Infotrack?
Yeah, look, I mean, sea state's a part of it, but really it's a riding moment thing. So, you know, they're at about 130 tonne metres, we're at 80 tonne metres. So when it comes to stability sailing, they're always going to be a bit punchy. So like I say, we just got to learn from where we're weak, which we've had a great opportunity to do that, and try and work the boat up into that space a little better. I mean, you can't be all things to all people, and so we're just trying to strengthen that part of our gig. But BMG running in 8 to 14 knots, be happy with that.
Flipper, I got an email in this morning saying that Charlie Dallin and the PV has lost his, or he's had damage to his port foil. Yeah, what's happening here? All these port foils.
Port foils seem to be the talk of the town at the moment. Obviously, you've got Linked Out that's been struggling without a port foil since you know, almost what I call the doldrums, or when they were caught in that high.
Indeed.
And I thought that was kind of interesting, because if you go back, you know, you know, one generation or one round of the Vendee, should I say, you know, we had the same problem with you know, with Hugo Boss having a foil problem. You know, and then we had Amal with the, you know, the famous didn't tell anybody that he didn't have a J1 cable and J1 on board when he had breakage. So I think that the Vendee Globe is just yet again showing it's just a test of, it's a test of mental toughness. It's a test of engineering, how hard you want to push. We've obviously seen more retirements this year than previously at the front end of the fleet, with some big names out. But I think that's testament to the will and the drive of these teams to be able to go that extra mile. And it seems like, you know, to people like Swark and myself, if they said, oh, you've lost your port foil or something, you'd be like, oh, we go home now, don't we? But these guys just seem to continue. And I think a great example of that is, you know, the mainsail breakage, you know, that happened in that first big squall when Hugo Boss kind of went through it, and I think it's DMG's the name of the boat, ended up you know, having an autopilot failure, jibing back and forward in 40 to 50 knots. We can't even imagine doing that ourselves. Popped out with, you know, a mainsail broken in half because all the battens had all broken around the rigging. Long story short, there he is putting it all back together. He's working with our team in North Sails, France, our engineers in the US, had to do translations from English to French to Japanese to be able to get the messaging through, and there he is back on the water. And then I think Chiral, is 3,600 miles behind or something at the moment, and pushing, you look at his 24-hour runs, he's beating everybody by 50 and 60 miles.
Mate, this is the story of the Vendee, isn't it? That and Sam Davies. You know, like he's 9 days behind. And he's in the back end of the fleet, you know, charging through them.
Yeah, well, I think that you're seeing a little bit of a split. You're seeing, which we've always seen, you're seeing the top group, the top 3 boats, are now, I think they're about 350 miles ahead of the chasing pack, kind of led by Yes We Can. I mean, all power to Jean Le Cam and what he achieved.
Sunny fourth, mate.
I mean, unbelievable. But he's leading the following pack in a non-foiling boat.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've got the chasing pack, you've got the lead pack that obviously are all the latest technology boats that are, kind of struggling with little failures here and everything. So I think it's not until they turn the corner and they start going upwind that we'll really start seeing who's who. And then the sprint across the top again, I think is going to be awesome to watch. But you know what, they're halfway through the race. I mean, long way to go.
Yeah, well and truly.
Yeah.
And of course, the other big thing that's going on, of course, is happening tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Auckland comes alive, right? The America's Cup, we've been talking about it, I guess, for 3 years. I've been standing here talking about the America's Cup right from
we do it every year.
When we first started talking about the new class. And to me, and from our side, from North Sales and North Technology Group's standpoint, I mean, they've exceeded expectations. What we know and what we're seeing as far as the performance of the boats is just unbelievable. The soft sails have really proven that there's something in there. Their double skin mainsail, is lighter than a solid wing, not quite as efficient, but if you trade off the power and the weight, it actually beats the solid wing. So I mean, it's interesting technology, and I think we're going to see some pretty exciting stuff over, I think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think you're going to see a lot of people watching what's going on over there, because it's the first time the 4 boats, and at the end of the day, the boats have to perform. I mean, when you go out, and Mark and I have been there, you go out, you can't sandbag, because you've got your sponsors, your supporters, you've got your 120 team members sitting on the dock, and you can't just go out and say this doesn't really matter. So I think you're going to have some really good indications over the next couple of days. It's exciting times. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get there.
Yes, indeed. But it'd be remiss of me if I didn't ask you, well, what's your prediction?
Oh, I think one of the 4 will win.
Oh God.
Oh, me, I'm always gonna sit on the fence. I mean, look, everyone's watching the little snippets that are coming out. Obviously, Team New Zealand are setting a pretty bold line in the sand, as we expected they would, because they're the defender of the cup, and every cycle of the cup has always been favoured the defender just being able to come out a little ahead of the game in the beginning. But man, you've got 3 really impressive teams chasing, and all they want to do is they've only got to beat Team New Zealand, to hold the America's Cup. So I think it's just too early to really tell. I think that obviously right out of the bag, you'd have to say that the Kiwis are setting a solid starting ground. But you watch the likes of the Italians, the Americans, and the English. I mean, they're going to get their act together. They'll work it out. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm sitting on the fence.
Oh, as usual. Now it seems like there's been a little bit of talk about the English boat. There's been some sort of Magnus has had a few words about it in the blogs.
Yeah, well, as I say, the America's Cup. Everyone gets an opinion. It's easy to kind of start pointing fingers, but all I say to anyone who has an opinion on what they're seeing, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, if you're that opinionated in it, why aren't you there having a go yourself? So I think that yes, there's pressure on everybody because they have to start racing this Thursday, and that's a real defined point that everybody's been fighting towards. But I think if you spoke to each of the teams, they've each had their challenges of being able to get to this point. It hasn't been the perfect year, it hasn't been the perfect build-up, because these guys had to put their plans together 2 years ago. They had to make both decisions a year ago. Yeah. So losing the World Series, losing that ability to actually race against each other in Italy, I think has affected all the teams in different ways. So I think that let's wait to see what actually happens on the water. You've got great sailors pushing great machines out there with really cool technology. I think it's going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to surprise people.
Well, I'm sure it will do, because of the fact that everybody's geared up for it and they're all poised to see what happens, especially the first race between the Kiwis and the Pongs.
Yeah. Well, I think every race every race in the America's Cup is important, you know. I mean, there's only a winner, you know, loser, second, doesn't matter. I mean, you just got to get those points early. You've got to get them for the motivation of your team, you've got to get them for your sponsors, and you've got to get them just to feel good about the direction you're going, because they're so locked in now to the direction, the path they've taken with their equipment. You know, we're still building sales for the teams right now. You know, they're doing their final round of, you know, we're doing final round of moulding and finishing for them. But that's for sales for March. So I can assure you, we supply 3 of the 4 teams, and all 3 teams are all ordering sales for March. So I can assure you they all expect to be there in March.
Oh, well, of course they would have to, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Just in case the inevitable doesn't happen. Mate, talking about building sales, what about locally? What are we building locally in the loft?
Oh, yeah, well, look, it's been an interesting year. Forecasting's been quite difficult, and with the shutdown in Melbourne has been difficult. You know, when you can't even go to your boat, there's not a lot of sale orders coming in. But the back end of this year has really surprised us with the amount of people that are participating. I mean, it's kind of through the roof. I don't know if you've been out there lately, but Sydney Harbour's chock-a-block.
Yeah, well and truly.
So, you know, that's an important part of our business, new sales, but this business is really based on service. We're in a service game, and this part of the year for us, we're full on with service. I mean, a lot of new orders didn't get placed, which is fine, because they'll just get done. That'll happen next year when there's a bit more people are a bit more enthusiastic and a bit more confident, you know, to spend some money. But we've got to be in this position we're in now to provide service to people, and our team here are flat out working long hours, repairing sails and keeping boats on the water. So that's what it's about for us right now, service.
So you were talking about before about there's a lot of moss sails.
Yeah, well, I did an interview the other day, and the question was, you know, what's the most impressive thing you've seen in sail making of recent times? And for me, it's definitely the moth thing. Not so much the foiling. I mean, everyone loves to rage on about the foiling, but the sort of sail you need to have before you're in the air and the sort of sail that you have when you're in the air are so different.
Yeah.
That I really think that our structure of the 3D lends to that. There you go, there's a little plug for North Sails. But with, you know, those sails are like a centimetre deep when they go upwind, and they're about 35 centimetres deep going downwind. So I don't know if you've seen one on the dock.
No, I haven't, no.
Go and have a look at one on the dock before they pull the control lines on. It's quite remarkable. They get from A to B, and you can't do it without a really rigid structure.
Fantastic. So what about foils as far as bigger boats are concerned? You're talking about putting them onto into blackjack. Will it be flying?
Oh, look, I mean, this conversation's a hot topic. I mean, for sure, that's going to get there at some point. The bit that everyone sort of misses is that the algorithm that's involved with flying the boat full time, you need a cup style team of support crew that can, you know, rejig the math every night and work out why the thing's not staying on the foils. So this vision of a 40-footer beating a 100-footer to Hobart and ocean racing going down that path with fully foiling boats, not, you know, like I know there's other boats foil, but they don't fully foil. Not taken away from what they're doing, it is quite remarkable. But I think that we're a fair way off that space of, you know, having someone like Peter Harburg employing 40 mathematicians and engineers to keep the project in the air. So it'll take a while for that to trickle down for sure.
Talking about big foiling boats, the Transat Jacques Farr, Jules Verne, sorry. Yeah, Jules Verne. They're both out of it now.
Yeah, well, the Ultim, I mean, you know, we've just talked about the Vendee and the Vendee about how, you know, to me, it's almost like it's the ultimate, one of the ultimate challenges of human kind of dexterity, focus, willingness to continue, right? You know, and I think the Ultim tries, to me, are a different paradigm. They're just like, hang on and let's go. They're using unbelievably cool technology. You know, there's five programs that are actively running at the moment. Yes, we've just seen, you know, the Gitana and Sedibo try and, you know, basically starting in the same weather window. They were both ahead of the previous record. I think Sedibo was 800 miles ahead when they first started having issues, and they made it pretty public that they're having issues, once again, with their foil controls. Sure. And then they slowly, if you watched it, they slowly started losing miles and miles and miles. And then they also saw the weather window shutting down because they'd been losing miles, so they missed assist them to be able to jump, and then they realised they were kind of going to be behind the 8 ball. And their big goal is still to race those 5, 100 plus foiling tries against each other around the world. It's still their goal, and they've still got it penciled in for 21 with a backup of 22. There's 2 new boats that are getting close to being launched at the moment, and then one that's being retroed. So, I mean, 5 of those things, and 800-mile days. They just do 800-mile days, like we talk about, driving to the airport,
That's right.
in peak hour traffic. It just seems, it's such an extreme sport, that side of it. But that is the ultimate of technology, I had been asked in another interview if I thought that there was trickle-down from the America's Cup with things like the double-skin mainsail and stuff like that off into that Ultim try, and my answer was, we just don't know what we don't know yet. We really don't. We have to get through this America's Cup cycle. I think there'll be a bunch of technology download out of the America's Cup cycle, and then how, if there is, what the opportunities are, to be able to bring, things like double skin soft sails into, a broader place. Obviously the likes of like Ultim tries and things like that, they need it, but then you've still got that problem of being able to reduce sail area. You have to be able to do it. Anyone who's seen those Ultim tries, when they're in big breeze, their setup is a triple reef mainsail, and that's what they sail with. It's not deploy the storm jib and deploy this and deploy that. They just go and reduce the mainsail, and the boats are beautifully balanced with the rotating rig with a triple reef mainsail. Then their next step is they go to 2 reefs and a solent, and then they've got this whole scheme, but they don't carry very many sails on board because they can't afford the weight. So they really rely on the mainsail, and then the ability to get maximum range out of the 3 jibs that they have up the front, from the big masthead 0 the whole way through.
Yeah, they power up so quickly, don't they?
Yeah, and as Mark's saying, like Moss, they're exactly the same thing, and you see that with the America's Cup boats. Anyone who's got a keen eye, watch the difference in shape of the sails. I know it's tough. It's even tough for myself to work out whether they're going upwind or downwind when you see all these little snippets. And the way I work it out is the depth in the sails, depth in the mainsail. And you see the mainsail's going from this deep to, to nothing. And that control is going to be one of the keys. So if we can bring some of the technology out of the America's Cup, kind of bring it a little bit more into the, into the real world, so to speak, I can see that there's going to be a bunch of good technology happening in the next couple of years, and it's going to take a class, and perhaps it's like even just like an RC44 class or something like that has the vision to say, we're one design, let's get rid of all the masts and let's put a double track mast on and let's put double skin mainsails on. Let's start. It'll just take one of the kind of mainstream classes to start that, and then I think off you go. The big foiling boats, I think, what Mark's saying, the big challenge there is the amount of support and the amount of computing and operational, PLC control, hydraulic control and everything. It puts it right off into the realm of very, very specific, very, very high budget, very dedicated programs like the Ultim tries as an example. They're treating their campaigns like we're treating the America's Cup. So it's a very niche market. It's not mainstream yet.
And of course, after the America's Cup, they all go then to Russell's series, don't they?
Yeah, well, they go off. The SailGP thing is, that's just a different discipline. I think that the little bit I know about that circuit is really just being out there. That's a marketing exercise, as far as I'm concerned. That's an image. It's a brand image. It's a marketing exercise. It's trying to, I get the feeling that, if the America's Cup boats do 49 knots, SailGP will say we're doing 49.2. Well, interestingly, I don't see the America's Cup trying to chase SailGP. I see SailGP trying to chase a little bit the America's Cup, but there's a position for that because it's high performance. It definitely gets, gives a bunch of, especially young athletes. I take my hat off to Russell with what he's trying to do as far as really, spread the word of high performance sailing and stuff. But at the end of the day, who are the 2 top dogs? Tom Slingsby and Ben Ainsley. I mean, and Nathan Outteridge. Sorry, Nathan.
Jimmy Spithill.
Well, they're Jimmy Spithill comes in. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it'd be, to me, it'd be disappointing if you just saw all the America's Cup guys all of a sudden all turn up in the SailGP. I get why Pete Burling and why New Zealand's got a team in. I get that. Seeing Jimmy Speedhill turning up with the US, okay, I kind of get that because they were looking for a bit of a change. But if all we saw was the America's Cup guys who didn't have America's Cup focus suddenly pop up on SailGP, I'm not too sure what that actually brings to the sport. I think if SailGP's model is to make that experience available to a new generation and a young, the youth generation, to give them the skills and a bit of an experience to be able to come the other way to the America's Cup, I'm kind of all for it. That's my personal opinion. Everyone gets one, right?
Mate, so you're talking about trickling down to other areas. What about boat design? You might see some, as we discussed before, with big boats.
I can comment on a couple of big projects, and then Mark, I'm sure, has got some examples too. But for sure, we're seeing working with a bunch of the yacht design officers, like we do the naval architects, and some big names. I won't mention them, but some of the big players are getting heavily involved, and they're getting demand from customers for high performance. How can I get my 130? If I build a 130 foot super yacht, I want it to be a performance boat, but I still want to be able to go to Capri, and after Capri go and hang around in the Med and go over to Porto and go and cruise and enjoy it. But then when I put it in racing mode, I really want to go and I want the thing to perform, and then I want to potentially look at see if I can break a few records along the way. So that's challenging once again. The North Technology Group, Southern Spars and North Sails, we have we within North Sails have a business unit called North Design Services, headed up by Jeremy Elliott in the UK, and he is maxed out. His business is maxed out for 2 years right now. I know, like they've got a heap on, and they're working with designers doing all the working on the aero solutions to be able to work with hydro to try and work out how you can get a 130 footer to be a performance boat. The new Swan 125 is exactly that. I think that interestingly that started this discussion. Beautiful. Of okay, so how far can we push it? Now, are they going to be flying like the America's Cup boats in New Zealand? No, I don't see that. But the ability to reduce displacement, reduce wetted surface area, increase riding moment's got to be a good thing. So we're seeing that demand's real, and it's out there, but it's a very, very niche part of the marketplace. And I don't know if you've got any opinion on that, Mark.
Oh, look, I think if we're talking trickle down and all those sorts of things which have sort of been in this subject matter, there's one thing that comes from the America's Cup that makes it down every time, and the race is actually engineering. It's all about engineering. And so structures, understanding loads, getting a real firm understanding of how far you can push the structure to meet the requirements of the boat, be it sea keeping or whatever else. I think that trickle-down's alive, and trickle-down's happening in all areas of the sport. I mean, boats are getting built bigger and bigger and bigger, and that can't happen without solid engineering.
So we've been talking about the top end of the sport. What about us regular guys who go out with our boats? So what are you doing for them at the moment, Mike?
Oh, look, I think we've seen, it's through COVID, we've seen a big increase in a couple of things. One is short-handed sailing, or two-handed sailing, as a reduction of crew numbers becomes a more obvious choice as an owner. And cruising, try and buy a yacht at the moment, second-hand yacht. It's almost impossible. The brokers are all looking for stock, and I'm not talking a second-hand TP52, I'm talking a good quality cruising boat you can do with your family. I mean, overseas travel stopped the next couple of years, why not get around and see Australia? In our particular case, it's the same in the Caribbean and New Zealand and Europe and all around the world. So they've been the two biggest growth markets, is the double-handed thing for racing, and then this cruising thing has really taken off.
I've got to ask you though, Flipper, what's happening with Marcus? Has Marcus got a new boat on the go?
Oh yeah, Marcus.
Or how many does he have on the go?
Well, Marcus, it's no surprise, and I know he wouldn't have an issue with me talking about it. He's got a beautiful new boat that's up at Pittwater at the moment at the Royal Motor Yacht Club, and it's a Southern Wind 96 called Ammonite, and just arrived a few weeks ago from Cape Town. So we've been doing a bunch of just final kind of sea trials and just testing all the systems for him and everything. And I know he's sitting anxiously hoping that Jacinta's going to open the the bubble, because his whole goal 2 years ago, when he made the decision to build the boat, was his end goal was he wanted to be in New Zealand for the America's Cup, and part of that was racing in the Millennium Cup, and then also the MasterCard event, so the two Superyacht events over there, and then culminating in sitting in his beautiful new boat and watching the America's Cup. So at the moment it's here in Pittwater. As I say, we've just been finishing the sea trials. We've obviously supplied all the sails and did a lot of work on the aero side with the rig design and everything for it, and everything's been going great. And he's done a couple of the Wednesday afternoon races at Royal Prince Alfred, so it's a pretty big boat for sailing around Pittwater. Anyone who knows Pittwater, try doing the Royal Prince Alfred Wednesday afternoon race on a 96-footer.
Well, truly. Now, who built the boat?
It was Southern Wind Shipyards, in Cape Town.
And whose design?
It's a FAR design, so Jim Smicker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's so that's the association with Southern Wind, and it replaces his previous. Marcus has had a previous Southern Wind before that called Ammonite, which was an 80. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I think it was about 82-footer. Yeah. So this is a new boat for him. So he sold the TP52, and he's enjoying that. But Marcus, I think, is a good example of what Mark and I are talking about. Marcus has still got his McConaughey 38, so he still likes to go racing. Like McConaughey 38, we get eight boats every regatta at the moment. We've got the Australian Championships geared up early next year. So there's a classic example of a gentleman who loves the sport, has got the time available, has got his race boat, and he's fortunate enough to have a cruiser racer. But it wouldn't surprise me if things don't open up and it's not easy to go to the Caribbean or something like that, or into the Pacific with the boat. Wouldn't surprise me if you see it doing a bit up and down the coast here, east coast here. And so we're really blessed by having a really solid position in the marketplace, and being able to provide the energy, to be able to support the demands, the wishes, the aspirations of all our clients, from One Design, from kids in Opties, the whole way through to super yacht owners like Marcus Blackmore. And then I think just a good example, one more example, is like the FAR 40 fleet here. I mean, FAR 40s were basically dead 4 years ago, right? Once everybody moved off to higher performance boats and the TPs and all that, the FAR 40 kind of stagnated a little bit from such a fantastic class. But now we've got, we just did a regatta a few weeks ago, and there were 9 boats on the start line, and they're talking about, early next year we'll be back up to 12. I mean, so you've got a fleet of 8 to 9 McConaughey 38s, you've got a fleet of 10 to 12 FAR 40s, and they're weekend sailors, enjoying going racing, club level racing. And I tell you what, it is really competitive.
Oh, well and truly. What about internationally? Are the fleets holding up internationally? Or?
Yeah, I think we've seen the same sort of thing. The biggest fleet, the biggest kind of One Design fleet, or the most powerful, let's call it most powerful One Design fleet, and I'm probably going to upset some viewers, you're going to get a few texts, but at the end of the day, the J70 still sets the base, as a kind of a performance bigger boat One Design class, so it still continues to thrive, although obviously numbers have been down, Jeff, because the reality is numbers have been down in all of the big events through the course of this year, because there hasn't been any international events really. But then once you go down into, well, not down, but across into the Melgus classes, Melgus 20, 24, 32s, all that, all the numbers have been down, but those One Design classes still have that intrinsic strength, and it'll just needs a little bit of border opening, flights to be a little bit more available, and off you go. Same with the Swans, Club Swan and what Swan have done, with that whole connection of the Swan 42 to the 45 to the 50. Now they're talking about a new Swan 80, all under the Club Swan brand. I mean, you know, and then the 125 if you want to go and order one of them. And I mean,
good luck.
You know, I think all these brands, what we're seeing is really strong brands, and are doing very well, and they've still got the critical mass, but it's just been a correction in the marketplace. It's just been, you know, a percentage off activity just through the lack of ability to be able to get to events, and no international events. People obviously like doing world championships, national championships, European championships, North American championships. There was just a J70 regatta in Miami over the weekend, you know. You know, so with international competitors there, I believe Michael Ilbrook won with the Pinter team, you know. So it's still happening, but the numbers are down.
Yeah. So you ran it all off. What about your company? What have you got? What's new? What can we offer to the sailor? Have you got any new designs or?
Yeah, well, I think you know, what's new is it's a continuation, as Mark was saying, of this. North Sails, we're completely committed to technology, to product and technology, and customer service and support. So when we have those kind of pillars, you know, kind of as the boundaries of everything we do, you know, this company was born through Lowell North on that, you know, that willingness to push technology and to push the unknown and understand it and apply real engineering science to the problems of trying to make boats go faster. And I think that testament to that is just our market share domination in the likes of the Vendee. You know, at the moment we've got 8 out of the top 10, we've got 12 out of the top 15 at the moment in the Vendee. Ultim tries, we have 100% market share. TP52, Azura, you know, has dominated over the last couple of years.
Right.
You know, we have 8 of the 10 there. I mean, we're just RC44, so it goes on, but our direction for next year is to continue this dedication to technology and better understanding the ability really to control and get range out of your sails. We've been doing a lot of work on this lately, and we're realizing that less is actually more. If we can actually have less sails on a boat, the boat goes faster because there's less weight in the boat. If we can get more range out of any given sail, it gives the sailors, whether they're a cruising sailor or a top-end Grand Prix sailor, it gives them more enjoyment, and it gives them more ability to be able to adapt without having to think, oh, I've got to go and change a sail, I've got to go and buy another sail. So we're putting a lot of engineering science behind that, and that comes under our brand of Helix. And so you're going to see a lot of news on Helix. America's Cup is covered with Helix, but we can't say anything about it. Vendee Globe is all Helix. You know, the Ultim tries are all Helix, and it's all about this getting increased range out of the sail, and then our 3DI structure just goes hand in hand with that. But it does take a lot of, it takes dedication to pure engineering. We have, I was involved with a global design meeting that we had 6 weeks ago, and we had 62 designers on the call. Now I challenge if all the other SailMakers in the world actually put all their designers up where they got 62, you know. Yeah. So, you know, we've got a very, very strong dedication. Yeah, we're big, we are big, but to be able to support how big we are, we need a lot of really good people, and we've got really smart guys working on some really cool stuff. So, you know, that's our story. It's really about range of sails.
But I think, you know, further to that, technology scares people, but what you learn when you can get right to the edge of technology is you learn how to deliver durability and gear that doesn't break. And so, talking about trickle down again, from all this stuff that Flipper gets animated about, that trickles down into our mainstream clients with our 3DI, you know, our baseline 3DI products. People buy them because they're durable. Sails are now lasting, and it's probably not great for us because we sell sails, but they're lasting like 3-4 times what they used to last, and we're recutting them like Dacron sails. So it needed to be the old school techniques, and you need quality sail makers. I mean, we're a sail making company, and we've got all that in our DNA and our history, and then use the technology right and get some durability in it, and then repeatability and recutting sails and doing all the old school sail making stuff. I think that's the bit that we're probably the most proud of.
Fantastic. Well, before we go, you've got to give me who's going to win the Vendee.
You know, I'm going to sit on the fence.
Oh, not again.
It's going to be
what
one of
got,
the
12 out of 15.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the 12 or the 15. It's going to be one of the 8 or the 10. Okay.
Our audience, we've got 26,500
Yeah.
hardcore sailing subscribers to the World on Water.
It
Mate,
will
we're one
be-
of the biggest in the world.
It'll be one
And
of
they're
the...
all waiting for you as the gurus to give them an idea
Just
of
so
what's
they can
going
tell
on,
us when we
to
get it
show
wrong.
what,
Don't
because
comment, Flip.
you're in the know and we're not. We're sitting on the sidelines. You're mixed up in this thing, mate. Tell me, who do you think?
Foiling will win, North Sails will win. Sorry, Jeff. We've got too much invested with all our teams. We would like all our teams. We would like, I know I'm speaking for our guys, for the company around the world. Everybody who works for our company, we've got, at the moment, I think the current head count is in excess of, we're nearly 1,500 people around the world. Everybody knows each of our teams in every event. Comes out in a weekly email, who's got what, and I can assure you that everybody's supporting the 12 of the 15. So it's going to be someone with North Sails on it. But I will
So
get
Patriot's
punchy.
not going to win.
I will get
Let's go.
punchy, and I'll tell you, it will be one of the new technology boats.
Oh,
So unfortunately, that does.
So you're not betting on
Thanks
John
for that.
LeCam?
No, I think that I would love it. We would love.
He's coming
we
forth,
can.
mate.
He's done it before, and maybe
Yeah.
I'll be more than happy to be wrong, but I do believe one of the new technology boats will run, and I think it's going to be pretty hard to do it with a broken port foil.
I'd say so too. What about the, I think that by the time that you get past Cape Horn and up towards the St. Helena High, Jeremy Bayou is going to look really good, mate.
Okay, well, he's got
Go
a
with
few
it, man.
thousand
Just
miles to pick up.
go
So.
with
he's going much faster than anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that everybody's watching that event, and it's going to be fun because there are going to be some parking lots, as you know, and as I say, talk about the Everest to sailing. That's it as far as I'm concerned.
But isn't the French sailing business absolutely wonderful?
Yeah. It's a. I'll go on the record also and let everybody know it's an absolute record year for us in France. It's been unbelievable, even with COVID, and obviously everything kind of everything's lined up timeline wise, but for sure with out of North Sails French, that team there handles everything from the mini transats through the Class 40, the Beneteau Figaro 3s, and then up and onwards through the Vendee to the Ultim tries, and the push out of France and the French marketplace for to talk about demanding on durability and demanding on range of sails. That's where it's all being pushed for in the offshore environment, so
Sure.
a lot of trickle down is going to come out of that's for sure.
Fantastic. And Quark, mate, good luck for the Hobart race.
Oh, thank you, mate.
You
Hope
must
I
not.
don't let myself down more than anything else.
No, yeah. Mate, I was in Hobart covering it in 2009
Yeah.
when the boat won.
Yeah.
Beautiful race.
Well, a lot of us sailed on the boat in 2005
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it was new.
Yeah.
I was the jib trimmer back then.
Yeah,
a lot of
well.
days I wish I still was a jib trimmer.
Mate, have a great race.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate
Jeff.
it.